On March 1st, 1932, Charles Augustus Lindbergh Jr., 20-month-old son of aviator Charles Lindbergh, was abducted from his home in East Amwell, New Jersey. It was considered the crime of the century. A ransom was paid, but the baby was never returned. 2 years later, Bruno Richard Hauptmann was arrested, convicted, and put to death for the crime, but many believe there is no way Bruno acted alone. I'm Jake Storielli. This is Laughs from the Past.
All right, welcome back to Laughs from the Past, Season 3, Episode 4, The Lindbergh Baby. The Lindbergh Baby, as you heard from Jake's wonderful intro, 1930s newsreel.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Jake, do you know anything about this case?
So I know the Lindberghs, right? I know Chuck.
Yep. Old Charlie Lindbergh. It's his son.
Pretty famous name in history.
Yeah.
Like, history ever. Like, Chuck Lindbergh is up there. So, yeah, I know nothing about this. You linked one article because you wanted me to get the old-timey accident, which Poppy Gordo already owns.
Holy shit.
But I listened to a little of it. Interesting stuff.
Well, we are recording this on Charles Lindbergh's birthday.
Whoa.
Serendipity? Whoa. So Charles Lindbergh, for those who are unaware, was a famous pilot. He was in the war. He's an aviator, military officer, author, inventor, explorer, environmental activist. And he was, you might think okay, well, that doesn't make him famous. No, he was one of the biggest celebrities of his time. He circumnavigated the world or whatever. So he was super famous before this incident happened where his son, Lindy Lindbergh, old Lindy, got kidnapped and then killed, which is sad. Yeah, sad. But a lot of people have written about this crime, about what happened, about the theories, because they tried a guy, like you said in your intro, but a lot of people were like, I don't know about all that.
And again, I'm not in the depths of it. I watched one YouTube video where I was mostly watching the accent. I didn't see what was going on. I will say there was a press conference of 3 police officers I saw that they were like, so is the case closed? And the officers were kind of like, yeah, we think so.
Mm-hmm.
Let's, yeah, it's done. We got him. Definitely wasn't you put a bow tie on this one. It was more like, we're going to stop working on this. So hopefully you guys are okay with it.
That's what it feels like. They just tidied it up real quick. Now, it was the crime of the century. If you go on YouTube, you can find news of everything, which is not common for, a lot of stuff from 1930s, I'm sure there was kidnappings, murders, and there's not newsreels for everything, but this was the focus point of every country. Everyone just wanted to know what happened. They call it the crime of the century. Here is a lady from back then summing it up. I thought this was interesting.
And now Adela Rogers St. John sums up the highlights of the trial of a century.
This has been the greatest emotional trial that America has ever seen. In one courtroom, in a few short days, we've had the heartbreak of Anne Lindbergh, the tragedy of Lindy and his baby, the horror of Bruno Hauptmann as the possible greatest criminal of our age, and one of the most amazing mystery dramas with ladders and fingerprints and ransom notes that anyone has ever conceived.
So there you go. Drama.
Know what this was, Jim?
What's that?
This was OJ before OJ.
Well, a lot of people compare that because OJ was the crime of the century later on that changed courtroom television and all that.
Because, I think if you went to the supermarket and you said, hey, what's the crime of the century? I think you're getting 95% OJ, probably a couple John Bonets, and then maybe some weirdo drops this Charles Lindbergh on me. But
what about Leopold and Loeb? You know anything about that?
Why we each have earlobes? I know nothing about that.
All right, so here's what happened. I'm going to lay out what happened first.
What happened?
I have a lot of things. Maybe I'll shorten it, and then we have a bunch of theories, okay? Stop me whenever you would like.
Sure.
Jump in, okay? Lindbergh lived in the city, but he had a house in New Jersey that was their vacation house. They were pivoting and going to be living there all the time. They happened to be there on the night of March 1st, 1932. And at 7:30 p.m., the family nurse, Betty Gow, put 20-month-old Charles Lindbergh Jr. into his crib. Around 9:30 at night, Charles Lindbergh was in the library just below the baby's room when he heard a noise that he imagined to be slats breaking off of a full crate in the kitchen. I've never heard a noise in my house and said, oh, that must be the slats breaking off the crates in the kitchen, because I don't know what that means.
Yeah, times were a little different, huh?
That's what old Charles Lindbergh, who lived in like a mansion because he was super rich.
Hey, are those slates breaking off a full crate in the kitchen this time of night?
What does that mean?
He talked a little Seinfeldy, too.
At 10 p.m., Gow, the nurse, discovered that the child was not in the crib. The nurse also found that the baby was not with his mother. So Gow alerted Charles, who immediately went to the child's room, where he found a note in an envelope on the windowsill. It was a ransom note written by the kidnapper, and it contained bad grammar and handwriting. He then took a gun and went around the house and grounds with butler Ollie Wadley.
Hey, Ollie Wadley, grab the guns.
They found impressions on the ground under the window of the child's room and pieces of a cleverly designed wooden ladder. Now, you may think, what could be so clever about a ladder? That was a little hyperbole by whoever wrote that sentence. It's literally a wooden ladder. Close your eyes, picture a wooden ladder, bam, you've got this wooden ladder in your head. They also found a baby's blanket. They called the police department to inform them of the missing child. 20 minutes later, police were en route, and the search was on. And like all these newscasters called the greatest manhunt that ever was. The ransom note is hilarious, and by the spellings and the mispronunciations via the spellings, they decided someone of German descent wrote this. So I had Jake whip out his old famous German accent, and he's going to read the ransom note that was found on the window by the crib.
Dear sir, have $50,000 ready. I went.
You're like Dutch with it. That's good.
Yeah, I went a little Goldfinger there. Have $50,000 ready. 25,000. Russian. That's not good. Let's 1 second. I gotta check with my German instructing teacher. It's the Windewasher. You would actually love these little YouTubes on how to do an accent. They're kind of the most ridiculous thing in the world. Let me just hear it once. Why is the voice like wine? Okay, I'll give it another try. We'll see where it lands. Dear sir, have $50,000 ready, $2,500,000. I think my problem is I can't read numbers. Have $50,000 ready, $25,000 in $20 bills, $15,000 in $10 bills, and $10,000 in $5 bills. After 2 to 4 days, we will inform you where to deliver the money. We warn you for making anything public or for notify the police. The child is in good care. Indication for all letters are signature and 3 holes.
There you go.
And that's what it said.
That's what it said. So
I just read it, and I don't know what that means.
They're requesting a ton of money in specific bills. The baby is in good care, but they spelled good, G-U-T.
Good.
And he said the signature indication for all letters, signature, 3 holes. So they did like a Venn diagram, and they colored the middle red. If the letter doesn't have this logo on it, it's not from us. Kind of smart.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of imposters. A lot of people. This was so famous, Jake. Everyone wanted to help. Everyone rushed to the house to like check out the scene and help and find stuff that they destroyed, like footprints evidence. They destroyed like a lot of stuff. Along with police, well-connected and well-intentioned people arrived at the Lindbergh estate. Military colonels offered their aid, although only one had law enforcement expertise. Lindbergh and these men speculated that the kidnapping was perpetrated by organized crime fighters. They thought that the letter was written by someone who spoke German as his native language. At this time, Charles Lindbergh used his influence to control the direction of the investigation. So he was like in charge of his own son's kidnapped investigation. They contacted Mickey Rosner, a Broadway hanger-on rumored to know mobsters because they thought this was a mob crime. Rosner turned to two speakeasy owners, Salvatore Salvi Spitali and Irving Blitz, so Salvi and Blitz, for aid. And Lindbergh quickly endorsed Irving or Salvi and Blitz and appointed them his intermediaries to deal with the mob. That's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, bringing in the mob. That's a classic. You see that in a movie and you're like, yup, they're bringing in their mob source. Then you actually think about real life and you're like, what?
It's pretty weird.
We're going to tap out on this one a little bit. Let's bring in the mob. They got to know something.
Mickey, I think the mob stole my kid. You know any guys that know the mob? Yeah. Salvi and Blitzy. All right, send them my way.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. See you soon. So yeah, they're in charge now. So a lot of crime figures, notably Al Capone, heard about the story and was in prison at the time and said, yo, I can use my connections to get your baby back right away, but in exchange, you have to free me. And everyone's
like, come on, Al.
Look, nah. No.
I know what this baby's important, but sorry, Al. You blew it, dude.
Good for Al. Never didn't take up an opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, I could help. Man. I could help, but you're going to have to free me from prison. Nah.
Nah.
We'll
find that damn baby, okay, Al?
We got Salvi and Blitz on the case, Al. So just Salvi and Blitz are dead the next day. Shit. It is Al's job.
All right. Capone's in on it.
The morning after the kidnapping, authorities notified President Herbert Hoover of the crime. At the time, kidnapping was classified as a local crime, and the case did not seem to have any grounds for federal involvement. But the Attorney General met with Hoover and announced that the whole machinery of the Department of Justice would be set in motion to cooperate with the New Jersey authorities. And the New Jersey officials announced a $25,000 reward for the return of little Lindy. And the Lindbergh family offered an additional $50,000 reward of their own. At this time, the total reward was $75,000, and that's equivalent to like 1.3 mil right now. But if you go up to the ransom note, they were asking for $50,000. So the kidnappers are asking for 50, and now whoever finds the kidnappers are getting 75. So what's the only logical thing to happen next, Jake?
Kidnap the kidnappers.
The kidnappers write in, and they're like, "We want more money."
Yeah.
The ransom just got upped. We asked for 50. You're offering 75 to someone else. You just give us the 50. This would have been done with.
Yeah. And end of case. You wouldn't have to bring Al Capone into it. You'd have your baby. We'd be counting money. Let's keep it moving.
Everyone wanted to get involved, like I said. This guy named John F. Condon, who went by Jafsey, which is a fun name. They say he was a well-known Bronx personality and retired school teacher. I have no idea how those two things coincide, but it's 1930s in the Bronx. Like a well-known Bronx personality that was also a school teacher means I think this guy just retired and walked around the neighborhood and was like, "What's up? I'm Jafsey. Jafsey here. Anyone need any apples?"
Being involved in the neighborhood during those times is a pretty good line.
It went far. This
means Jafsey was loud, basically.
Yeah, a well-known Bronx personality. That he was also a school. I was like, okay, is he involved in local government? And he was a retired school teacher.
Hey, he probably taught like 2 generations of family, and he was a big part of that area in the Bronx. So Jafsey was huge.
So anyway, he offered $1,000 if the kidnapper would turn the child over to a Catholic priest. People were just writing these things, like in the newspapers. Yeah. Hey, I'll do this. Everyone wanted to get involved. Condon, Jafsey, then receives a letter written by the kidnappers with the signatures that says, "Hey, you, Jafsey, you're going to be our go-between between Lindbergh."
Jafsey, you're pretty well known in the community. Let's get you involved.
So he's the go-between now. He didn't know any parties. He just wrote a letter saying, I'll give some money to my priest if you return," or whatever.
All right, we got it down. We either want Jaffe or Capone to be our middleman. All right, we're going Jaffe. We're going Jaffe.
Yeah, right? On March 6th, a new ransom letter arrived by mail at the Lindbergh home. The letter was postmarked March 4th in Brooklyn.
How exciting was the mail?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Mailmans were heroes back then.
So you got nothing else in the bag today, huh?
No more ransom letters?
Doesn't have the little Venn diagram on it? Okay. Just keeping an eye out.
So this letter carried the things. The ransom had been raised to $70,000 because,
Yeah. Idiots.
And they told Lindbergh, like, hey, this dude Jaffe, he's going to be our go-between. They're like, who the fuck is Jaffe?
We didn't agree to the Jaffe part.
How did Jaffe get involved? So they like vetted Jaffe, and they said he's good. He's
All right. If you guys want to, it seems like we're just sending an extra piece of mail, but yeah, if you want to work Jaffe into it, let's do it.
classic. Jaffe's like so excited to get involved. Like, oh, nice, I'm gonna have an inside scoop. I'm gonna be involved in this, and then he realized he's the go-between between like the wealthiest person in the history of the world and kidnappers, mobsters. I don't think many people don't want that position.
Hey, Jaffe's got the Bronx on his side, baby.
A meeting between Jaffe and a representative of the group that claimed to be the kidnappers was eventually scheduled for late one evening at Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx.
Casual.
Do you think movies and stories put that trope into the world, and then real life criminals just read movies and stories and heard, oh, you meet at the cemetery at night, and so they just started doing it because some authors had invented it? Or do you think this was actually a place where seedy people met naturally? I gotta believe that some writer, like some crime writer, made it a famous story. You meet at the cemetery at night under the moon, and then now criminals are like, yeah, we're trying to play up to the hype of it.
Yeah. Probably a little column A, little column B. I think. Have you finished watching that show You on Netflix yet? We haven't talked about this.
I got 2 more episodes in.
Okay, well, I mean, they already crossed this line in one of the early episodes, but he goes to a book to learn how to like bury a body properly because you can't type that into Google.
Yeah.
So I mean, going back in time now, yeah, I'm sure it would be your starting idea. Like if you were like, okay, I'm committed to kidnapping someone, blah blah, you would go back to the 2 books you've read that had kidnapping in it, and they'd be like, oh yeah, they met up late night in the cemetery. Nobody's looking over there. And then you build off of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So anyway, they meet at the cemetery, and the guy he meets says his name is John. And according to Jaffe, the man sounded foreign, but stayed in the shadows during the conversation. And Jaffe was unable to get a close look at his face. The man said his name was John, and he related his story. He said he was a Scandinavian sailor, part of a gang of 3 men and 2 women, and the baby was being held on a boat unharmed but would be returned only for ransom. When Jaffe expressed doubt that John actually had the baby, he promised some proof. The kidnapper would soon return the baby's sleeping suit. The stranger asked Jaffe, would I burn if the package were dead? When questioned further, he assured Jaffe that the baby was alive. Sounds like he's dead.
Say that line again because it freaked both of us out.
Would I burn if the package were dead? I don't know the tone in which he's saying
I'd be killed if the baby's dead?
Yeah, I think he's like, would I be dead if the baby were dead? And I don't understand how he's asking that. Like, I think he's maybe saying it like, of course the baby's alive. I'd be dead if the baby were dead. Because if he's asking in earnest, would I die if the baby were dead? Yes. And it really seems like he's dead now.
Sounds like you guys killed the baby. Yeah. I was just going to say an interesting dynamic of this that I think is getting overlooked, and you and I are going to be on opposite pages here. Like, all right, if you're in a tight spot, you're really up against the wall, you're like, okay, I'm going to kidnap some rich person so they give me money so I can go live with that money. That's what a kidnapping is. Kidnapping a baby? It's a lot of maintenance. Like, I'd have no idea what's going on. The baby's up during the night. You're losing sleep. You've already got the anxiety of a kidnapping. Mm-hmm. Now you're watching someone else's baby? No way.
So little Lindy had a special diet, too. and they posted the special diet in the newspaper. Like, this is what he eats.
If you're the kidnapper reading this, make sure Lindy's eating this stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, so they gave Jaffe money. This guy said he showed the baby sleeping suit, right?
Right.
So they proved it. So they placed a new ad in the paper. Jaffe placed a new ad in the paper. That's how he talked to the kidnappers. Money is ready. No cops. No Secret Service. I come alone, like last time. On April 1st, April Fool's Day, I wonder when that became a thing, he received a letter saying it was time for the ransom to be delivered. The ransom was packaged in a wooden box that was custom made in the hope that it could later be identified. Smart. The ransom money included a number of gold certificates which were about to be withdrawn from circulation. And there was hope this would draw attention to anyone who was spending them. That's super smart. The bills were not marked, but their serial numbers were recorded. Also smart. On May 12th, so that was exchanged. They gave Cemetery John the money, right?
Right.
And then they told him where the baby was. They went to find the baby. It wasn't there. This is a sad part, so brace yourself. On May 12th, the delivery truck driver, William Allen, I think he was a black gentleman, stopped on the side of the road to go pee, and he found the body of little Lindy, who was dead.
Yikes.
Blow to the head, and he found the body only 4 miles away from the Lindbergh house. So many people think that that's as far as he got, 4 miles. So whoever took the baby...
Right.
They never had him. He was never alive past the night of.
Could see that. I mean, something with the ladder.
Yep. Why would you drive back to put the body 4 miles? You know what I mean? It just doesn't add up.
Right.
Okay, so during a 30-month period where they were trying to figure out all of this stuff.
Now, you said 30 months too quickly. I just want to remind people that's 2.5 years.
2.5 years, yeah. I'm just reading. But yeah, 2.5 years. It was a long time.
That wasn't a shot at you. That was me also having to do the math, so I thought I'd help out the people.
The ransom bills were being spent in New York City, and they would pop up everywhere. And eventually they realized the bills were being spent along the route of Lexington Avenue subway. So along all the places they were spent were along the subway, which connected the East Bronx with the east side of Manhattan, including the German Austrian neighborhood of Yorkville. So that makes a little sense. On September 18th, 1934, a Manhattan bank teller noticed a gold certificate from the ransom, which is crazy. Just on the lookout for, I guess if you're working in a bank, what else are you going to do? Like every time you get a gold certificate, you're like, oh, this could be it. This could be it. Because
yeah.
It's kind of exciting.
That's a big day for you.
So the bank teller wrote down the license plate number on the bill. It's like, he's got this bill. It was Ford U 1341NY. He wrote it down. It was a good job by that bank teller. The station
in that little YouTube video that I was watching for the accent. That was the part that I saw, and they were like, "Yeah, these gold bills things were kind of out of circulation." So the person just wrote down the car. I was like, "Wow,
yeah,
people are good sometimes.
Yeah,
people are thinking."
Yeah, it was the whole thing of paying them in those bills and all that was smart for 1930s. Yeah. The license plate belonged to a sedan owned by Richard Hauptmann of the Bronx, an immigrant with a criminal record in Germany. When Hauptmann was arrested, he was carrying a single $20 gold certificate, and over $14,000 of the ransom money was found in his garage. Okay, so they're like, ooh, Hauptmann. His first name was Bruno Hauptmann. They're like, we're kind of on to you, dude.
Bruno Hauptmann.
Looking bad for you.
Yeah.
Hauptmann was arrested, interrogated, and beaten at least once throughout the following day and night. Hauptmann stated that the money and other items had been left with him by his friend and former business partner, Isidore Fish. And Fish had died on March 20... I don't know why I laughed. I laughed because it's a ridiculous excuse. Oh, no, my friend Fish gave me that money. What happened to Fish? Oh, he died.
Isidore Fish died, so I have his money.
He left his money here, and he died. And then Hauptmann later went on to say that, he died, so I checked his shoebox that he had me watch for him, and I realized there was a lot of money in there. And, he owed me some money, so I just started spending it.
So, yeah. Times were tight. We kept the money.
Hauptmann denied any connection to the crime at all. He never said he was innocent. His wife said he's not innocent. But when they searched his house, they found a considerable amount of additional evidence that linked him to the crime. One item was a notebook that contained a sketch of the construction of a ladder similar to that which was found at Lindbergh home. I still don't really understand why they're talking so much about like the construction of the ladder and how it was a
maybe it was the perfect size, or it was
maybe the perfect height. That height might
yeah.
Okay, so look up Lindbergh ladder, Jake, and I'm sure you'll see it. It's legitimately a wooden ladder. What's interesting about the ladder is that they went to Hauptmann's attic, and the floorboards were missing, and the floorboards matched the wood that was used to build the ladder. That's pretty damning evidence. It said the grain, the size, the length was exactly cut out from his floorboard in his attic.
It's a tough look. Yeah, I think what makes this ladder quote unquote special is it's the perfect size for that window. I think that's why they're specifying the ladder so much.
Mm-hmm. He also had a bunch of other stuff. He had, like, in the notebook, he had Jaffsey's telephone number along with his address. He had a section of wood in the attic. Yeah, he had a bunch of stuff. His handwriting matched the letters perfectly. And people that debunk this theory say, like, no, handwriting analysis is not perfect. You can't try someone on that. But I looked at it myself. It's like the most spot-on handwriting analysis you could have.
Yeah, I saw that a little bit too. I think it's funny that because I think nowadays it can be damning. I think it's become such a science that it can be damning evidence. Back then, I think it was pretty touch and go, because I think back then it was still one of those things like if you were if this was during the time of TV shows and stuff, you'd be sitting there on your couch like, yo, that handwriting kind of looks like mine. If I was getting framed for something and they're just going off handwriting, that would suck.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the handwriting's come a long way. But you're right. Because they took the words out of the Ransom Note. This was the other thing in the YouTube video. And they just took individual letters and rewrote his name.
So you saw that, right?
So I saw that part. That was actually pretty cool.
As exact match.
Yeah.
Exact match. So the handwriting experts, I think I have a clip of the audio from them. Let me see if this is it.
The evidence is unmistakable. Mr. Hauptmann might just as well have signed each one of these ransom notes. So convincing to my mind is the proof that he did write them.
Dr. Schulhofer, born in Germany.
In my opinion, the fact is unmistakable that all 15 ransom notes were written by a man raised and educated in Germany. And that man is Bruno Richard Hauptmann.
They got him. Hauptmann. So anyway, to sum it up, he gets tried, he gets the death penalty, and he gets killed. And his wife, the entire time, said he was innocent. Here's her voice, which is hilarious.
When did you first see the money, Mrs. Hauptmann?
I saw the money the first time when the detective took me down to the garage.
Do you think your husband is guilty of kidnapping the Lindbergh baby?
I'm absolutely sure my husband had nothing to do with the Lindbergh kidnapping case.
Forced. I miss that vowel that they used to say, like, first, foist. Foist, yeah. She was German, so she came to America and learned English, and that's how she learned it. Interesting.
Foist.
All right, Jake, so that is it. So, before we go into theories,
right?
Do you see any glaring holes? Do you have any questions that you're like, well, wait?
Interesting. Because I haven't got that far, but while I'm here, let's think about it. We find all the money, or we find most of the money. We find
a third of the money.
We find a third of the money or so. We find pretty damning evidence about the ladder. This guy knows Banksy or whatever the king of the Bronx was.
Jaffsey.
I mean, we have nothing for motive, right?
Just to get money. This was common. Kidnapping
and
for money
that's
was
the other
common.
thing I'm going through. Like, this is Great Depression, right?
Yep. Yeah. Money's tough.
So money's tight. But I mean, it still doesn't. I don't know. There's nothing that's like, yeah, this dude did this. Like, it's like, okay, yeah, maybe seems like this guy, I don't know, it's the 1930s. This guy said, hey, let me kidnap their baby. I'll get some money. Okay, the baby died. Things fell apart. Whatever happened. But there's still nothing like, this is why he did that.
Yep. All right. So here are some glaring holes that investigators were like, but
Right.
how do you know they were in that house that night? They didn't live in that house every night.
Right.
How did
Right,
he know the baby's room was the baby's room?
Right.
They had to have measured the window. How'd they
So, I mean,
know the baby
from
was
these-
going to be asleep and alone at that time?
From these first couple hints, we're assuming there's an inside person.
A lot of people said there had to be an inside person.
Well, it couldn't have been Ali.
Ale, no. Let's go into theories.
Okay.
There's two big ones, okay?
Okay.
There's this first one. I'm going to do this one first. It's the second one down. It's in 2012, a book came out called Cemetery John by a guy named Robert Zorn. And Zorn said his father had told him, his father was old now, but he told him that when he was a teenager growing up in the Bronx, this is Gene Zorn. He was a teenager growing up in the Bronx. 3 doors down in a $10 a month rented room lived a German grocery store worker named John Knoll. Knoll was 10 years older, but the two had become friendly, partly through a shared interest in stamp collecting. Hey, you want to come over and see my stamps? Nah, we did that yesterday. No, I got a new one. Okay, just show it. No, you got to come over. Let's compare our stamps again.
Roll through later. I just got a new stamp. I mean, that's just an excuse to drink, right?
Well, I think the one that was 10 years younger had to be younger, like young. I think and he was like 14 and 24 is what I'm guessing.
Oh, okay. That's even weirder. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm gonna go over to Noel's house and see his new stamps. Okay, son.
Sounds like a freaking blast.
So one day in the summer of 1931, John Knoll invited 15-year-old Gene, so 15 and 25, I was pretty close, on a trip to the Palisades amusement park just across the Hudson River from New York City. After splashing in a pool, Gene rejoined John, who was talking with two men, one whom he recognized as John's brother, Walter. They were speaking in German, a language Gene didn't understand. He did pick up 2 words, however. One was Inglewood, and the other was Bruno. The name of the third man, whom Gino had never seen before. So this is Zorn, his brother, and Bruno. This is what this guy says. I heard them talking, and I knew that was Bruno, and I heard Inglewood. At that point, Knoll brusquely told Gene to return to the Bronx by himself. Surprised and upset, he did so, but never forgot the incident. Yeah, I guess you would never forget that if you went to the park with your friend, and then he was like, you got to go home alone now, and you got to travel across the whole city alone. You would remember that.
Yeah.
Years later, it all came flooding back to him. Sitting in the barber's one afternoon waiting for a haircut, Gene Zorn picked up a copy of True Magazine that was peddling the latest crackpot theory about the Lindbergh kidnapping. So this happened in the 30s. In the 60s, they're still writing about it. In 2019, we're still talking about it.
OJ.
Yeah. He read about Inglewood, where the Lindberghs lived, about Bruno Hauptmann, about the mysterious individual called Cemetery John, both of them who spoke with German accents. He remembered the bizarre episode at Palisades Park. He remembered how his mother hadn't liked John, referring to him as that crazy Dutchman. And because why would the mom like John? Like if your 15-year-old son's like, I'm going to go over to a 25-year-old stamp collector friend. No, don't like that guy.
Not into that.
Please don't go over there. Nothing's good going to happen there. So he thinks that he saw the conspirators discussing the plot. So the son is writing this book now about his father's conversation. And because that could be nothing, right? You can't put any stock into that alone. So they look up John Zorn and all this and find out about him. And his past goes pretty well with this theory. Gene Zorn pursued the investigation, though as something of a sideline. And before his father died in 2006, Robert promised that he would make his mission to establish the truth. The result is this book. So what he found was, he said when he was searching, if I found anything disproving my dad's suspicions, if I'd learned that John Knoll was a really great guy, I would have dropped the whole thing. That's what my father would have wanted. Instead, he found the exact opposite. He found fact after fact that tended to support Gene Zorn's theory, his dad. Not only is the physical resemblance striking between the artist's impression based on Jafsey's description and the real John Knoll, so he met the guy he met at the cemetery that said his name was John. Jafsey drew a picture. It looks just like John Knoll, not like Hauptmann.
Of course, Jafsey drew a perfect picture.
Yeah. Jafsey also remembers a fleshy lump on the base of the cemetery John's left thumb, which is weird. Jafsey, what you see out there? Well, he had a lump on his thumb. I was like, great. Not a lot of humans have that.
Yeah.
Does Hauptmann have that? No. Hang him. What?
Still kill him.
Yeah. So this guy found that John Knoll did have that lump on his thumb in pictures that they found of him. So, and after the initial identity lineup, Jafsey said about Hauptmann, that's not him. But then they just wanted to solve it, so they kept pressing and pressing.
Right.
Man,
Hauptmann's still involved. We just don't know to what level.
Yep. The man in the cemetery identified himself as John. The first ransom note was posted from where John Knoll lived and worked. So that's pretty spot on. The baby's sleeping suit returned by the kidnapper was wrapped in a paper of the kind used for deli food, and both John and his brother Walter were deli clerks that prepared sandwiches every single day. And they found a third of the ransom money in Bruno's house. And this is saying, this theory says there's three of them. Like Hauptmann, too, Knoll started to spend money after the ransom was paid over. He shelled out the small fortune of $700 for first-class tickets on the liner Manhattan for his wife and himself. They left 3 weeks before the trial began, while he sailed back alone, leaving on the very day the trial ended, when it was clear, Zorn argues, that Hauptmann had not betrayed him on the witness stand. So he went away on a cruise during the trial. And then when it was found out that Bruno didn't rat him out, he came back. That's what this theory says.
Sure.
After the ransom was paid, he began to shower Gene Zorn, this guy's dad, with expensive commemorative covers, some with aviation theme, or even featuring Lindbergh himself, all acquired on the wages of a deli clerk. So he's like, yo, let me boost your stamp collection, young fella.
Sure.
Good
stuff.
We love stamps. There's no proof Hauptmann and Knoll even knew each other, but there's a possible connection. Zorn's landlord, who knew the Knolls and whose family had lived very close to the Hauptmanns in the small Saxony town of Kamenz. And then psychologically, there's a bunch of stuff that says that Zorn is a good fit too. So this theory is just that there was two other guys involved, and their names were John Knoll and his brother Walter Knoll. And John is the guy who met at the cemetery, and they split it 3 ways, and Bruno didn't rat them out. I believe this.
Yeah.
Because the third of the money sounds really good. There had to be other people involved. There just had to be other people involved. It's not like Bruno just did this by himself.
Right. You don't just wake up and be like, all right,
yeah.
Today's the day.
They offered Bruno to not die, I think, if he just told the truth. And he still said he was innocent until the day they killed him. That's crazy to me.
I mean, maybe it's like a mental loophole they all told each other. Like Bruno's saying, maybe Bruno didn't actually kidnap the baby. Maybe Bruno did. Bruno was the driver or something. I don't know. You start talking yourself into different things.
Yeah. All right. So I think that theory is good, and it does show that he had to have other people involved.
Right.
Had to. Now, this theory, Jake.
Yeah.
This next theory gets interesting.
Okay.
Several people have suggested that Charles Lindbergh was responsible for the kidnapping himself. Okay. There's been a lot of theories on this. One theory is that Lindbergh accidentally killed his son in a prank gone wrong. Like he was going to sneak up and steal his son out the window and like play a prank on his wife.
Yeah.
There's worse pranks done on wives from their husbands involving babies on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then he accidentally dropped him and killed him, put him in the woods 4 miles away, and then staged this whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
That's crazy. The other theory is that Lindbergh was basically a Nazi.
Right.
A Nazi. Well, maybe. I don't know. He adhered to the growing Scandinavian German notion of the 1930s about the racial superiority of Northern Europeans compared to Southern Europeans and Asians. He had a desire to spread his healthy genes, and his belief in the eugenics movement, which goes hand in hand with his pro-German feelings before World War II. His secret affairs, starting in 1957, with 3 women in Germany, 2 of them were sisters, nice, which led to 7 children, besides the 6 he had with his wife. So he had 13 kids. So eugenics were like, get the good genes, the white race, spread it, birth, take over, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's also a little bit like, think about we see like an NFL quarterback that has 7, 8, 9 kids, and you're like, well, hey, that guy's got money. He can take care of that many kids, so like, good for him if he does. Mm-hmm. I think there's a little bit of that too. I mean, we're talking again a very wealthy person just popping out kids. Doesn't sound like a great guy, but I mean, you're making a jump there a little bit.
Yeah, well, this guy that wrote this book said I think he's got a lot of evidence that he did like openly support like Germany.
Oh, sure.
And this thing. There's pretty good evidence that little Charlie was not perfect. Although the child's health and physical condition at the time of his abduction were downplayed, even hidden from a curious public, he appears to have been afflicted with a rickets-like condition that affected the development of strong bones. He required mega doses of vitamin D and daily exposure to a sun lamp kept cribside. He also had hammer toes on his left foot, a too large cranium, and unfused skull bones. So he was not your perfect, healthy baby. And the more compelling evidence that I believe in, the famous father took personal charge of many aspects of the investigation. He isolated household staff who may have had knowledge of his son's medical condition. He didn't let the FBI or anyone question anyone in his household or his staff. And he ordered the body cremated and the ashes scattered immediately after the autopsy. A cursory autopsy. Now, that's basically all of the stuff we have. So we have to find out what happened now, you and I.
Right.
I think there's no way Lindbergh wasn't involved. I don't know what his goal was, but I fully think not letting them investigate his staff and nurses, because why wouldn't you suspect a nurse?
Right.
There had to be an inside job. Knowing they're going to be in that house, the ladder size, the time of day, just go into a house, steal a baby, and leave that easily. It had to be an inside job of some sort. And
so if you believe in Lindbergh,
yeah,
what's the connect the dots to the outside? You know what I'm saying?
That I don't know. We have to figure that out. But if Lindbergh wasn't involved at all, then he would 100% suspect someone in his household. Because why wouldn't they make a fuck ton of money off the people they're working for? If like they truly didn't intend to harm the baby, he would investigate all his household servants. Anyone would. Hey, listen, I don't think you did it, but we just got to talk to the FBI so they can check everything out.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to put myself in that position because I mean, how many people do we think are working at?
It was 20 plus.
20 plus. Okay. I mean, there's a certain level of being a wealthy person that would take care of the people that help maintain your property and your life, that if you feel like almost you feel like they shouldn't be brought into it, or like if you take such good care of them because they take care of you and your family, that you'd be like, no, like these people are with me, like don't do that.
But I
don't know. It's just an angle.
Your kid got taken. I think you'd be desperate. Like, listen, Betty, gal, I don't think you did it, but you might have told someone where he sleeps. Someone might have asked you, just being curious about our household and the day-to-day lives. And you thought they were just interested because I'm a Hollywood figure and I'm a known personality, but maybe they were up to bad. So can you talk to the FBI and just tell them who knows what? Like, you would do that.
Could we also be not far enough in the time period? I mean, could you like not trust the FBI and cops and stuff? I mean, we're talking mobsters and stuff. Like we essentially jumped mobsters before we jumped FBI. So maybe it was like a who do you trust kind of thing.
Maybe
like maybe he trusted his workers more than the FBI in the 30s.
The FBI wasn't fully formed yet. This was like the beginning of it. Hoover was involved, but yeah, I just think if he truly didn't know, he would have everyone interviewed. I think he had to know whether he just wanted to fucking, I don't know, man. I don't know if he wanted to kill his son, but some people think he just wanted to have his son sent back to Germany because
I'm ruling out baby prank, because you mentioned some of the baby prank videos you could find on the internet. People do that for views and laughs and chuckle. Like you don't do a baby prank just you and your wife in the 30s. Like, I lost the baby. No.
I'm also ruling out baby prank. I don't like that theory at all.
Which means you're heavy Lindbergh Nazi, no?
Yeah, I think he was trying to get rid of his son or something. I just think there's some way he was involved. Now, I have no idea how he finds these three guys, Bruno and the Knowles. Like,
right. You got to connect the dots there for me, because right now I'm seeing nothing. Maybe
he. Yeah, I have no idea.
I mean, I guess you spin that into the Nazi thing a little bit. You find a couple good German boys that you can still give some money and are willing to take the fall if they need to.
Yeah. But how do you find them? You go, I mean, it sounds like they just find everybody. Like they just go to the Bronx. They found Jaffe somehow.
Jaffe seems... The Jaffe part doesn't make sense.
No.
Like, I know times are boring. Two of the topics that came up were sending letters and stamp collecting. So, I mean, times were different a little bit. So you have to factor that in. Like, we looked at it like Jaffe was doing something for the neighborhood. If Jaffe was so well known in the Bronx in the 1930s, I bet Jaffe was pretty connected, whether clean, dirty, or a little bit of both. I don't know. I think we're overlooking the Jaffe element.
They said they checked him out. I have no idea, man. Bruno was involved. I believe the other theory that those other two guys were involved.
And also, like, Jaffe was a teacher. Where's Jaffe have all this money he was talking about? Didn't Jaffe offer to pay, like, part of the ransom
only
at some point?
Only $1,000.
But still, Great Depression, a retired teacher in the Bronx?
He was just talking out of his ass. Jaffe was just a guy writing letters. Like, he walked up and down the street saying, "What's up? Anyone need some bananas today?" And then he was like, "Hey, I'll give $1,000 to my church if you return the baby safe and sound."
You've got a point there. It's 90% that Jaffe was just some guy in the Bronx that thought he ran the place. Maybe he did. He got involved. But there's 10% chance that Jaffe's like the kingpin here.
That'd be hilarious.
Am I right? Like, if you watch this movie play out...
Okay, so here's how he's the kingpin.
And then the final scene is some Dan Brown, like, it shows all the moving parts, Jaffe's in the background, and then it just comes with him, like, laughing and counting money or something. You'd be like, yeah, Jaffe.
Yes, okay, so it comes up with... we're in a Dan Brown book, Da Vinci Code style thing, and we're at the end now, and it's the unusual suspects. We're revealing it, and they show a meeting between Lindbergh and Jaffe in the Bronx. Lindbergh gets up, leaves the table. Next to sit down are the two Knoll brothers and Bruno, and they're setting up this whole scheme.
I'm just saying, 90% guy in the Bronx in the 30s who got over-involved because he kind of wanted to, 10% kingpin on Jaffe.
I'm with you, man. I think Jaffe's it. I think I was hesitant when you first said Jaffe, but yeah, Jaffe's definitely involved. Wait, so do you?
Because why? We still don't have a good why was Jaffe involved. You know what I'm saying? What how did we go from Charles Lindbergh and his family dealing with these people to, you know what? Should we bring in a guy just from the Bronx? It's a very unnecessary step.
Yeah, because the kidnappers could have just wrote a letter and said, "Hey, we're ready for a ransom. Someone pick it up." Not Lindbergh.
Yeah.
But instead, they were like, "We found this guy in the Bronx. How'd you find him?" Well, he said via newspaper he'd pay $1,000 if we gave the baby to the church. Okay, so you're doing that? No. So we're going to have him be the guy that picks up the money and drops off the money and picks up the baby for you. That seems unnecessary. My buddy Hank can do that. No, we're going to go with Jaffe.
We're talking about a baby kidnapping situation where, things are running hot. It's intense. It's unbelievable. Things are just crazy. It's chaos. And yet, the kidnappers and Charles Lindbergh, who had his kid kidnapped, were able to mutually agree via letters that Jaffe was going to be the mediator for this? It makes no sense.
I am speechless because I did all the prep and the research. I didn't think we were going to come to this conclusion because I was blinded by it. But you're right. Jaffe...
for some reason, we fast forward through it. We're like, yeah, it was the 30s, so Jaffe got involved. No,
I still think, though, but Jaffe being involved doesn't make him the mastermind. It still makes Lindbergh the mastermind because he had to reach out to Jaffe to do this. It still makes Lindbergh trying to get rid of his son.
But, are we saying, because fully buying into this, it's basically Charles Lindbergh, all-time bad guy.
Yeah, we're really picking apart an American hero.
Guess what I'm going to type into Google right now?
Lindbergh, bad guy.
Is Charles Lindbergh a bad guy? Let's see the results.
What comes up.
Nothing instantly. Just links me to his wiki.
What if
I
go Lindbergh
this,
Nazi?
One of the first things that pops up is the website Ducksters, which is a history for kids website talking about how special Charles Lindbergh is. This is OJ. Lindbergh's OJ. He just times weren't there enough to throw him under the bus.
Okay. Here's some 10 quick hitters about Lindbergh. And then we'll use these 10 facts to decide if we think he was a part of this.
Okay.
And this is all our evidence. 1, his father was a U.S. congressman. What's that mean, Jake? It means he grew up doing shady deals and making big deals.
A lot of connections.
2, he worked as a daredevil and stunt pilot. That goes into the prank theory, maybe.
No, it doesn't.
He wasn't the first person to make a transatlantic crossing in an airplane. So he's a liar. His claim to fame is fraud. He experienced hallucinations and saw mirages during his famous flight. No, you didn't. That's another lie. You just said that. He achieved several more firsts in aviation. That's a dumb fact. Capone offered help. He played a role in the advent of the space program. He helped invent an early artificial heart. He was a major...
How about this, Jim? I think I got it.
He was a staunch conservationist.
I think they figured it out that Lindbergh was the bad guy, but the nation wasn't ready for that, and he was doing stuff with NASA, and you mentioned something with hearts, that they were just like, yo, we can't have... It's the Great Depression. Like, if we have Charles Lindbergh go down right now, Like, our country is screwed.
Okay.
So when you say Lindbergh was hiding... When you say Lindbergh was hiding his 20 workers from the FBI was hiding Charles Lindbergh from his 20 workers. Boom.
Wow. Herbert Hoover was the president. There was Hoovervilles set up all across the land because that's where the homeless lived. They called them Hooverville. People were dying left and right. Herbert Hoover needed a win. They said, hey, Lindbergh's baby got arrested. Do you think we can get some good press out of this? Herbert Hoover said, yes. Yes, we can. But President, it looks like he did it himself. He's a pretty bad guy. No, he's not. Bruno Hauptmann did it.
And Bruno Hauptmann was an illegal German immigrant at the time with World War II on the horizon.
Heavy stuff.
I'm sorry that this is the last episode of Laughs from the Past because we're going to jail. This is it, folks.
We cracked the case. That's all. If you got other theories about the Lindbergh baby situation, let us know. At Talkin' Jake on Twitter, at JohnBoy_. We got Laughs from the Past Instagram that needs to be more active. If anyone is interested in funny history stuff and wants to help run the Laughs from the Past Instagram, get in touch with me.
Get in touch with us.
That was it. That was a fun episode. I think we really dived in deep. I think we cracked the case.
I think we totally did, and it's again, this is kind of the goal of this. Like, I had never heard about this. And yeah, I mean, get me a Lindbergh OJ Netflix documentary and people are going to watch.
There's got to be so many movies and documentaries about this case.
Well, did they have the correct answer? Because we just figured it out.
Lindbergh baby documentary, Netflix. Who killed Lindbergh's baby? Yeah. This might be the most popular topic we've done, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. All right.
Good.
We will see you guys next week. Thanks for listening to Laughs from the Past. If you like this, go back. We got a catalog of over like 50 shows, I think. So there's a bunch for you to do. See you later.